Top Democrat in the Senate's Russia investigation tried to gain access to the author of the discredited Trump dossier, former British spy Chris Steele, through a lobbyist representing a Russian oligarch. You can't make this up. Fox News obtaining shocking new text messages between Senator Mark Warner and lobbyist Adam Waldman. In March of last year, Warner texted, quote, "We have so much to discuss. You need to be careful, but we can help our country." Waldman, whose firm has ties to Hillary Clinton as well as the Russian oligarch, texted back to Warner, "I'm in." A week later, Warner texted about meeting with Steele, quote, "We want to do this right, private in London, don't want to send letter yet, because if we can't get agreement, we would rather not have a paper trail." Now, an aide to Warner admits the texts don't look great out of context, but he does say the senator kept the Republican chairman of the Intel Committee, Richard Burr, apprised of his efforts to interview Steele. And the full committee has been aware of the Warner text since last September. Joining me now is Congressman Jim Jordan, who serves as a member of the House Judiciary and Oversight Committees. He's also a member of the influential House Freedom Caucus, about which more with regard to the budget later. But first of all, Congressman, what do you make of all this?
Well, if Senator Warner wants to, work in a bipartisan way, then why did he want to travel to London privately, just meet with the lobbyist, with Steele and himself, no one else in the meeting, and why didn't he want a paper trail? So he can say it's all bipartisan and the Senate Intelligence Committee is working together, but my first reaction is that's probably not how bipartisanship is supposed to work. If you want to only meet with this guy, you and the lobbyist and Christopher Steele. Remember, Christopher Steele, the guy who wrote the dossier, he just wants to meet with him privately, doesn't want a paper trail, and is willing to travel to London to make that all that happen.
And why on earth would you go through a lobbyist who's working with a Russian oligarch? I mean, this isn't he supposedly was going to get information connecting Donald Trump to the Russians, and he does it by contacting a lobbyist who's working for the Russians. It boggles the mind.
Yeah, the irony is not lost, right? So again, I think it raises all kinds of concerns. It's why we have an investigation. And frankly, and I don't like second special counsels, but it's why we need a second special counsel. And we've called for it months ago to look into the uranium one issue, to this issue, to how the Clinton invests. You have to have it. Unfortunately, it needs to happen as soon as possible, I think. But to get to the bottom of all these questions that have been raised here in the last several months.
Let's talk about uranium one, because once again, there is so much more evidence of connections between the Clintons and Russia than there is between Trump and Russia. Occasionally, the paths of some of Trump's people intersect with Russians, but only in a coincidental way, whereas uranium one is something where there was a direct attempt to corner Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State, to give all kinds of gifts to the Clinton Foundation and other interests of Hillary Clinton, whether it was her husband, Bill, or the Clinton Foundation. And now we find out that the Russians were giving money to a PR firm, which in turn was giving money to the Clinton Foundation. And that looks to me like money laundering.
Yeah, again, there's a story every day breaking about what the Clintons were involved with, and it's why we need to look at all these issues. We actually talked with the whistleblower a couple days ago and heard some of this from him directly. So we'll see how this all shakes out, but it's just one more issue that I think warrants the naming of a second special counsel to look into everything that we have learned, again, as I said, in the last several months.
Are you now working with senators, in particular Lindsey and Graham and Senator Grassley, who put together this criminal referral that mentions that Sid Blumenthal, of all people, who worked for the Clinton Foundation or worked for the Clintons for years, for decades, that he might have been putting stuff into the Trump dossier?
Well, the story that was just a couple days ago, it was a foreign source giving information to a Clinton friend who gave information to the State Department, who gave it to Steele. Now, think about this. So, first of all, the Clinton campaign hires Christopher Steele to put together the dossier. Then they were also telling him what to put in it. I mean, that's how the Clintons operate. So this, to me, is this, again, a big concern, what Senator Grassley and Senator Graham are doing, as well as Senator Johnson, in getting these text messages, I think has been a real help to all of us on the House side as well to get to the bottom of these key concerns.
You know, Congressman, there was collusion. There was Russian collusion. but it wasn't among the Republicans, or an attempt to get Donald Trump into the White House. It seemed much more the other way around.
David, to date, not one bit of evidence to show any type of coordination between the Trump campaign and Russia to influence the election. But we know for sure, just as sure as you and I were talking, that the Clinton campaign paid the law firm who paid Fusion, who paid Christopher Steele, who worked with Russians to do what? Influence the election. That we know for certain. And now we hear more and more things about the Uranium One deal, about the relationship with maybe Sid Blumenthal and Cody Shearer, and then more and more entangled it becomes. But again, all working with Russians to impact the election.
Congressman, they're giving me a rap, but I just got to ask, again, why isn't Mr. Mueller looking into this? His purview is supposed to be looking at Russia influence in the election campaign. There certainly was on the other side, on the side of Russians working with members of the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton campaign. I mean, why isn't he looking at that? Or could he be, and maybe we don't know about it?
It could be that. He could be looking at, we don't know what exactly he's doing in his investigation. What I do think needs to happen is, as I said before, a second special counsel needs to be named. I think Mueller is inherently compromised on some of this stuff, specifically the Uranium One issue, because he was FBI director when that decision was approved by CFIUS, that committee. So I think he's inherently compromised. Mr. Sessions has recused himself. I see no other remedy but a second special counsel.
Congressman Jim Jordan, great to see you, sir. Thank you for coming in. And we are coming right back with much more.